The presidency of the United States is one of the most powerful positions in the world, and with great power comes great responsibility. However, some leaders have failed to live up to the expectations and have left a lasting negative effect on the country. From scandals to economic downturns, from the Civil War to the Cold War, from Watergate to Iraq, this is a story of power, ambition, and the consequences of leadership gone awry. Before we begin, make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon to get notified of the latest updates on our channel. Zachary Taylor was a revered Army general, a hero of both the War of 1812 and the Mexican-American War. However, his ascension to the highest office in the land was marred by tragedy, where he passed away just a little over a year into his presidency in the sweltering heat of July of 1850. Yet, within that brief period, President Taylor managed to sow seeds of discontent and discord that would leave a lasting impact on the nation's history. For starters, his ownership of a sprawling cotton plantation in Mississippi, where more than 100 individuals were enslaved under his watch, sent shockwaves throughout the northern states where abolitionism was gaining ground. Northerners were appalled at the very idea of a man who had fought to uphold the Union and the Constitution now owning human beings as property. Meanwhile, Southern states were dismayed by his refusal to support the expansion of slavery into new territories, such as California and New Mexico, which they saw as a fundamental right. This put Taylor at odds with his own party, the Whigs, who were known for their pro-slavery stance. Thus, Zachary Taylor's legacy as president may have been short-lived, but its impact was far-reaching and profound. He was a man through his actions and beliefs managed to alienate both sides of a deeply divided nation, leaving behind a trail of discord and animosity that would ultimately pave the way for one of the darkest periods in American history, the Civil War. The reign of Herbert Hoover as President of the United States commenced during the era of prosperity known as the Roaring Twenties, a time when Wall Street was flourishing with excitement and opulence. However, his tenure concluded during the bleakest chapter in American history, the aptly named Great Depression. Despite the catastrophic state of the economy, Hoover's approach advocated for non-intervention, which exacerbated the crisis even further. The repercussions were catastrophic. Countless banks failed, leading to the loss of homes, savings, and jobs for millions of Americans. Desperate and destitute, they were forced to establish large-scale encampments they called Hoovervilles in major cities. The electorate was left disillusioned with Hoover's free market theories, paving the way for the New Deal policies proposed by Franklin Roosevelt, his successor, which resonated with voters and won him the presidency in 1932. The stark contrast between Hoover's ineffectiveness and Roosevelt's policies could not have been more evident. With a cutting edge as sharp as a sword, Eugene P. Trainey, a renowned professor of history at Virginia Commonwealth University, delivered a blistering critique of Warren G. Harding's presidency. Trainey asserted that Harding had so few enemies because he lacked the courage to take a firm stance on any issue. Ouch! Harding had promised to restore normalcy after Woodrow Wilson's tumultuous tenure, but in reality, he just retreated into the background, allowing his seasoned cabinet members to take charge. Unfortunately, their agenda included policies that favored the wealthy, opposed organized labor, and opened foreign markets for the tycoons who controlled the nation's largest banks. Harding's legacy was one of timid leadership, missed opportunities, and a lack of political vision. Amidst the tumultuous political landscape of the mid-19th century, Millard Fillmore, a Whig hailing from upstate New York, was burdened with the daunting task of governing a divided nation. As the previously mentioned Zachary Taylor's vice president, Fillmore found himself at odds with his boss, with whom he shared little in common, and their relationship remained strained throughout their tenure. When Taylor passed away in office, Fillmore ascended to the presidency and found himself embroiled in a fierce political storm. He staunchly supported the Missouri Compromise, which drew the ire of Southern politicians, yet also enforced the Fugitive Slave Act of 1850, enraging Northern abolitionists. His actions left him with few allies and many enemies, much like Taylor, as both sides of the slavery debate found cause to oppose him. Fillmore's leadership saw the Whig Party lose clout and eventually dissolve. leaving a vacuum in American politics. The era of William Henry Harrison's presidency was a brief one, and his successor John Tyler did little to alleviate the political turmoil that plagued the country. As Harrison's vice president, Tyler assumed the role of President of the United States after Harrison's untimely passing. However, Tyler's personal beliefs were at odds with his party, the Whigs, and he flagrantly wielded his veto power, causing his entire cabinet to resign, except for Secretary of State Daniel Webster. The Whigs soon expelled him from their ranks, but Tyler's descent into infamy was far from over. In a stunning turn of events, his home state of Virginia seceded from the Union in 1861, and Tyler was elected to the Confederate House of Representatives. This treachery was not taken lightly by his former political colleagues in Washington, and he was subsequently branded a traitor to the Union. The legacy of William Henry Harrison is a tale of both triumph and tragedy. While his time in office was brief, his life before his untimely demise was marked by a fierce determination to serve his country. Harrison's military background and experience as governor of the Indiana Territory enabled him to negotiate numerous treaties with Native American tribes, although their terms often forced them to cede their ancestral lands with little compensation. He also clashed with the formidable Shawnee leader Tecumseh in the War of 1812, where he emerged victorious in both the Battle of Tippecanoe and the Battle of the Thames River. And despite his military prowess, Harrison's presidency was cut short after only 1 month, leaving behind a legacy that was defined by his enduring spirit and commitment to his nation. The tale of the 45th President of the United States, Donald Trump, will undoubtedly go down in history. His tumultuous presidency was marked by a series of brazen actions that challenged the very fabric of American democracy. From the get-go, he disregarded a multitude of long-established ethical laws, including the emoluments clauses of the U.S. Constitution, which forbid elected officials from receiving gifts from foreign entities without Congress's approval. Trump also made headlines for appointing cabinet secretaries with no political experience and a national security advisor who was working as a foreign agent, an unprecedented move that left many questioning his judgment. But perhaps the most egregious of his actions was the propagation of insidious lies about the integrity of the 2020 election, which ultimately culminated in the shocking and violent insurrection at the Capitol on January 6 of 2021. Donald Trump's legacy as a one-term president will forever be marred by his blatant disregard for the laws and norms that have long upheld American democracy. The era preceding the infamous James Buchanan's presidency was graced by the likes of New Hampshire's own Franklin Pierce. This man, although inexperienced in politics, had the temerity to fuel the already burning tensions between the North and the South. His penchant for cronyism led him to dole out cabinet positions to his lackeys, further compounding his ineptitude. But it was the infamous Kansas-Nebraska Act that ultimately cemented his place in infamy. The act, which repealed the Missouri Compromise of 1820, paved the way for slavery to flourish in Midwestern territories, much to the chagrin of the anti-slavery faction. The decision to allow white male voters to decide the fate of slavery in Kansas and Nebraska plunged the country into a dark period of violent conflicts known as Bleeding Kansas. Thus, the reign of Pierce served as a harbinger of the tumultuous times that lay ahead for the United States. It is undeniable that Abraham Lincoln, with his profound statesmanship and moral leadership, left behind a towering legacy that would be hard for any successor to match. Sadly, Andrew Johnson, the man who took over the presidency after Lincoln's assassination, did not exert much effort to uphold his predecessor's high standards of ethics and justice. In fact, during his tenure, the country witnessed a dark chapter in its history as southern states implemented laws that curtailed the civil rights of African American citizens, known as Reconstruction, and paving the way for the overall era of Jim Crow laws. Johnson himself contributed to this by violating the Tenure of Office Act, which stipulated that he could not dismiss the Secretary of War, Edward Stanton, without the Senate's consent. Johnson's impeachment followed soon after, a damning testament to his failure to live up to Lincoln's principles and the country's expectations. Behold the infamous legacy of James Buchanan, the 15th President of the United States, who is forever intertwined with the most abhorrent ruling in the annals of American history, the odious Dred Scott decision. Yet that was not his only encounter with the question of slavery during his tumultuous administration. In a display of astonishing apathy, Buchanan adopted a laissez-faire attitude towards slavery, a reprehensible notion that it would somehow vanish on its own. Despite hailing from the northern state of Pennsylvania, Buchanan often aligned himself with the pro-slavery South, earning the ignominious moniker of a doughface. His spinelessness and tacit support for the abomination of slavery will forever stain his legacy and serve as a cautionary tale for generations to come, as his actions ultimately led to the American Civil War. And with this, we reach the end of today's video. What did you think of today's video? Share your opinion, do let us know in the comments section below if you liked today's video, give us a thumbs up, and do not forget to hit the subscribe button, share this video with your friends and family, and press the bell icon for more upcoming videos. We'll see you next time with a newer video. Stay tuned and take care.